I'm going to kick off this morning with a thought, something that I hope you guys can take away with you from the room today. Now, it's titled 2 words, which is get out. And I want you to turn to the person next to you with a bit of passion and just tell them to get out. Come on, yes, awesome. All right. Now, I want you to turn to the other person that you didn't talk to and just tell them and stay out. All right, so get out and stay out. I'm going to get back to this thought in a second. Can I just get a show of hands, just out of interest, how many parents we have in the room this morning? All right, a lot of parents. Cool. I became a dad a year ago, and everyone says it'll change your life. I didn't get it, and then it did. And I think for me, the one thing I didn't quite understand were the dads that have got like photos everywhere, phone, laptop, screensaver, and photo of their kid everywhere, and they're like, my kid's so cute, and you're like, I'm not sure, but like, I didn't get that. And that was until about 12 months ago when we had our son Jed. And now I'm that dad. I have to show everyone. So this is Jed, and I know it's not good to kind of brag, but he's potentially the most sort of talented kid out there. And now, I'm not just saying this for a laugh. There's actual proof to this. So at the hospital, day 2, he starts smiling. And I'm like, this kid is brilliant. And then the midwife's like, no, sir, it's wind. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure that's a smile. And anyway, it's a bit of an argument. I have a photo. You just tell me what you think that is. Who thinks that's a smile? Come on. So that's Jed, little unprofessional. I'll cut to the reason why we're here in a second. Baby photos are done. And you know, at Thankyou, I suppose we've grown up a little bit. We started, I was 19 years old, about eight years ago, first year university. And in the early days, people said, well, you have no idea what you're doing. It was thrown around a bit. And you guys are quite naive. Your approach is very naive. And in the early days, we were kind of ashamed of that word. We felt awkward about it. But today we fight to keep that naivety as the brand grows, as things get bigger. Because sometimes it's this childlike thinking, which isn't limited to one or two of us in the room. Every single one of us has been a child. Some people in this room are still completely children. But we try and keep this naivety to our approach. And in the early days, it started with a problem. Now, I saw a number on my screen that was confronting, and it said 900 million people don't have access to clean water. More confronting than that number was the stories of kids spending half a day, some a whole day, walking to collect water for their family. And I think for me, reading statistics like 4,500 children dying from waterborne disease was shocking, but then watching stories of kids that lost brothers and sisters, kind of messed me up. And I had this one moment at 19 where I'm crying at my computer because I'm thinking, like, what if that story was me? And I've got sisters, Jess and Mel, that are younger than me, and I thought, imagine that. Imagine walking every day to collect water for your family, and then you watch your sisters die, and then you find out it's waterborne disease, like the water you got them that killed them. I remember thinking, like, that's not my story. But the fact that it's some other young person's story in our world, it made me feel a lot of things. The two main things, one was moved. I think we've all been moved before. But the second thing is I sat at my computer feeling completely overwhelmed. My thought is, what difference can one person make to a problem like 900 million people? And I'm not sure how you guys feel at the moment, but opening the newspapers just lately, it's very confronting. We live in such a complex world, and often the individual's left feeling kind of powerless. And I remember this number, 900 million, was so big, but there was another number often that it was compared to, which was the bottled water industry. And in 2008, we spent $50 billion globally on bottled water. Today, it's 100 billion. 600 million of that is here in Australia. And I personally think bottled water is a bit of a silly product. Now, I'm going to ask us to show of hands. My hand's up. Can you just join me if you think bottled water is silly? Come on, you get tap water for free. Let's be real here. Cool. Now, for my next question, which is my favorite, who's ever bought a bottle? So we're like, yeah, bottled water's silly. I'm silly. You know, like we've done it. We're paying $3 or $4. It's not worth it. But the strangest thing is it is, actually, to us in that moment. This is what we do as consumers. Some pretty good marketing, good advertising out there. Well done to everyone in the room. But we've created something that in the moment is worth it. And simple thought, what if we could turn that kind of dumb moment into something more powerful? Launch a brand of water that gives 100% of the profits to funding water projects. And my best mate, Jared, I told him and he loved it. He's like, I'm in. I'm like, cool, man, that's cool. And my girlfriend at the time, Justine, she loved it. And she said she was in. I'm like, that's cool. And I'm thinking like, this is risky. Girlfriend, best mate, we'll see what happens. And good news is we're all still co-founders. Jared and I, we are still best friends. We sit near each other at work every now and then. And Justine and I are now married. So that was our son, Jed. Does anyone work with their partner here? Awesome. It's just a little nod. Turns out it's not for everyone. But I have an idea to change the world. Jared's first comment was classic. How do you start a bottled water company? I'm like, man, I got no idea. And so we did what some of you wouldn't do as professionals, but we didn't know how to start a water company, so we just Googled it. And Google was good to us. Google said you need a bottle and a factory and stuff. But it was helpful, and I suppose we started clicking around and we thought, well, if you need a factory, let's meet with factories. And just remember, we don't know what we're doing. So we go to these meetings wearing our parents' suits so that we don't look too young. And we'd always, as we drove in the car park, we'd take the P plates down. We're sort of, we're trying to look professional. And we'd say stuff like, we're launching a huge brand of water in this country, and people are looking at us like, you're crazy. You're up against these big brands. They mentioned a few brands you might be familiar with. And they said, do you understand? I'm like, yeah, but we're going to change the world. And it was interesting because the realities of the industry, the size, the money that's spent, it was made quite apparent to us just how tough this next step was. And the early days were funny. Like, we had questions like, can you call a brand or a product Thankyou? And we weren't too sure, but someone called their product Apple. It sort of worked. And if you zoom in, like if you look real closely, you'll actually see a TM. We've trademarked the word Thankyou, which I think is amazing. And that's because I had a mate who just finished law school, and I was like, bro, how does the trademark stuff work? And he tells me this. He says, so if no one's ever put a TM next to the word before, you can just put a TM there. I was like, no. Turns out no one's done it. So we just put a TM there and stuck it on the bottle. And that's how we trademarked Thankyou. 6 years later, I got registered with the good people at the trademarks office. And unfortunately, it's only trademarked to a few categories, not the whole world just yet. But we have this idea. At the same time, we have no idea. And as we start presenting, people talk about the impossibility. And often they talk about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that we need. But I remember the 5th factory, we shared the vision, and this time the manager, he caught it, and he said, I'm in. We were like, that's awesome. What does that mean? And he says he's going to bottle our product for us, no upfront costs. That's cool. Go out and sell it, paying the cost of goods when we can. We go from there and walk in the doors of the largest distributor of beverages in the country. A group that worked for Lipton and Red Bull, and we were told you're not going to get in. In fact, the factory manager's like, like they're the biggest in the country. We're like, yeah, it's on the website, and it's like they work for Lipton and Red Bull. We're like, yeah, and thank you, and one day, and it was interesting because his point was not to crush us, but simply say that you start small, you prove your model, you work your way up, and maybe one day a group like that'll be interested. And we presented to them anyway, more as like a learning experience. We thought, we're not going to get it, but we'll learn something. We learned a few things that day. In the pitch, the director says an hour in that he'll take 50,000 units. How quick can you get it to me? When he said that, I was like, give us 3 weeks. And he was like, gee, that's quick. I was like, yeah, we're pretty quick at Thankyou Water. And I remember the call of the manager. I'm like, we've got 50,000 units. And he's like, you are kidding. I know. I'm like, we've got 3 weeks to deliver it. He's like, did they say that? I was like, no, we did. So anyway, There was a lot of swearing in that phone call, but remember, we're going to change the world. This is the plan. And I love this shot of Jared. It's the first run of product, great moment, followed by a pretty shattering one because product goes into stores through this big distributor, and we have a pallet delivered to mum and dad's garage. And as we unload this pallet, we're so pumped. We don't have an office yet, but we've got our water. And our team went dead quiet because a third of all the product in every box, the label was scrunched on. So some to the point you couldn't read it. We called the distributor, and because they'd send it in a store in Perth, Adelaide, and Melbourne, he explains when I say we need to get product back, he said there is a term for that. It's called a product recall. We spent the next 3 months recalling product. This was meant to be our launch phase. We get back to market, we build up to 350 stores, and that took us a year. It was a lot harder than we thought. And then our factory, who kind of promised the world, didn't keep up with supply for 5 weeks. And in 5 weeks, we lost 300 of our 350 customers. Remember, we had a distributor in Queensland who's like, we're not working with you. You're just kids. You don't know what you're doing. I'm like thinking, yeah, but it's not us. Like, it's the factory. And they're older people, you know, like, they should know. You can't say this stuff, but you think it. And so we see this whole dream just come crashing down 1 year in. We lose 90% of future income, and we relaunch simply because 2 retailers were looking at this idea, and we thought if just one of them take it, it'll change everything. The relaunch with the new factory and a new distributor here in Sydney was interesting. A month in, they said you'd be in 2,000 stores in month 1. We weren't quite in 2,000 stores in that first month. But we did get a letter from a legal firm up here saying they got into liquidation. This is the new distributor launch, the relaunch. And we kind of shattered, and then the 2 retailers came back saying no. And then they both came out with their own bottle of water that went to funding water projects. And that's cool, that's why we started. It was just hard because it was our idea playing out in front of us, kind of without us. Present to one of the big supermarkets. And we don't name and shame, and we don't even say red or green, but we present to one of them, and it kind of sums everything up. He says, I love your passion and your idea, it's cool, but you're up against brands who are investing $3 to $5 million in new product launches. This is big business, and word of mouth and cause, it's good. It's just not a grocery play. But we need that because that's where the people shop. And so for 12 months, we go back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. Not stalking, just lots of emails. And I remember 12 months into that journey, which is now 2.5 years in, we get the best sentence ever. Congratulations, you're in. National range every store. I think for us, this was a tipping point, and you've got to get production ready for this. And it was an interesting one because as we got it ready, I called through just to check order size. And the phone call is a phone call I won't forget. I've had a pretty rough 2.5 years, but when I put the call through, a new category manager had taken over. The new guy hadn't heard of us, and I called the old guy. He said, I've told the new guy, you got national range and call him back, and I did. But he said, we won't be taking it. I've got the big brands, I've got my own brand, I don't need your water. And so we have a commitment. He goes, you do. It just doesn't stand because it's with an old category manager. And I think for us, this journey was hard, and this is a bit of a depressing story, so I'm sorry. And it gets worse, for reals. 3 years, no national retail deal. Name a retailer, there's a story. But people are like, why would you stick at this? It's a really important question. And for us, our why wasn't around product, it was around something bigger. And when I met Vianney and saw the water he was drinking, that for me was just a further reminder of our why. And it's so important that as humans, as brands, but more importantly as humans, we don't just theoretically know why we do something, but we continue to dig deep down to the core why of each of our life. And it's different for all of us. Family. I mean, I had photos of Jed up there. Family makes up our why. Relationships, cause, impact, the world we see, vision, ideas. For us at Thankyou, our corporate why is around, really simply, getting people out of that situation into this one. Access to sustainable water sources. And it's interesting because when you know your why, it becomes this anchor. And you'll be prepared to do things that others are not prepared to do. And that's what we did at year 3. See, at Thankyou, we talk about finding your why, but we also talk about this thought that who says we have to do things the way they've always been done before, which sounds almost disrespectful. And actually, that's so generic, you'll probably forget that sentence. So I'm going to rephrase this. The status quo is the way things kind of always are or have been. And I think sometimes we need to high-five the status quo in the face with a chair. Just next level of disrespect on that sentence. And what I'm talking about is going against the way things have been done, but hear me. One of our board members, Graham, he's 76 years young, and he tells me he's going to get skinny jeans soon and flick his hair up, and he says he's on the board to stay young, and he has some morbid comments after that. And I'm like, Graham, you're here for more than that. Graham had 50,000 staff and a $7 billion business, and we have so much to learn from experience. But when you combine experience of the past with a willingness to question, is there another way? That's when remarkable things happen. And some of you may be across this, but at year 3, we launch a little video on YouTube. It says, hey, everyone, 2 weeks from today, we're presenting to 7-Eleven Australia. And right now, we're asking you to jump onto their Facebook wall to say, 7-Eleven, if you stock Thankyou water, I'd buy it. Now, we're kind of new in the marketing ad world. Some people are like, that's ambush marketing. We're like, oh, no, it's like a pre-awareness before the pitch. And this thing goes viral. I'm going to play a video, right? This is what people start uploading. Carrie Bickmore on the project was like, hey, everyone head to Facebook. There's a big petition. And this is what goes down over the next few days.
Okay, let's get down to business.
Hey guys, Jules Lund here from Getaway.
Hi, I'm Patricia Yogurt.
Hi, my name is Mike.
I'm Kat.
I'm Paul.
Hey guys, I'm John here.
My name is Lucy.
This is Mosaic and Drew.
Vita Adam here.
My name's Rich.
My name is Louis. My name is Dean Gaia.
Christopher Wayne.
My name's Rudy. Gerard.
Joanna.
Hello.
Dia.
Teresa.
Kate. Baby.
Ross.
Daniel.
That's Craig and Waterholic.
I love Thankyou water.
Where's your Thankyou water?
We love Thankyou water.
7-Eleven, please stop Thankyou water.
7-Eleven, stop Thankyou water. I'll get Daddy to buy it.
Thankyou water, Thankyou water.
If you stocked it, I would buy it.
I would definitely buy it.
I'd buy it.
I would buy it.
I would definitely buy them.
Everybody look to the left. Everybody look to the right. Can you see it? We'll pay for it tonight. 7-Eleven, thank you. 7-Eleven, so thank you.
This goes on and on and on. It was so cool. It was so scary. We're like, are we in trouble now? And the pitch goes well. We could do another presentation another day on the pitch itself. Little nerve-wracking, but the long story short, 7-Eleven do one of the fastest new product launches they've ever done. The product hits the shelf. Why? Not just because of an idea, but a consumer backing. From day one, we outsell brands like Evian. And it's kind of like naive backwards. It's just a thought I have on that one. But we challenge the industry and it works. And at this point, we think, cool. But this is bigger than bottled water. See, for us, bottled water is kind of silly, but the idea of Thankyou is consumer empowerment to make that global impact. And so for 2 years, from year 3 to 5, we develop more products. We develop a food range with Callum from MasterChef. He's joined our team as our CTO. I'm our Chief Taste Officer. And he's developed our muesli bar and clusters, packed with superfoods and all-profit funding food programs here in Australia to Melbourne's homeless and global food aid and development programs. And in the 2-year phase, we develop our water range further than our body care range. Hand washers, lotions, sanitizers. Natural product that's good for you, but all profit goes to funding health and sanitation programs. And during this, we also develop a world first in product where every single product has its own unique tracker. There are no 2 products the same ever. And when you type it into our website, it'll zoom into the GPS coordinates of the exact well, filter, food program that you're funding. Now, if you sign up, you can then get a field report 6 to 12 months later after the program's complete. The same level of reporting you get as a high net worth donor, we bring to you if you buy one product once, in the hope that you'll join us on kind of a much bigger idea. And at year 5, after the development phase of this, people are like, you guys are crazy. Like, not good crazy. It's been 5 years, and you can't get one bottle of water into Coles and Woolies, and they've got 70% of the grocery market. You've almost wasted 2 years of your life developing all these other products. And we realized that. But we had an idea and we launched a little video on YouTube to kind of help propel this to that next level. And the video was called the Coles and Woolworths campaign. Some people are like, you can't put the two biggest supermarkets who hate each other in that same sentence. But Wesley, our graphic designer, he didn't find it too hard. He just did it. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but we launched this clip on YouTube, it goes viral, and then this thing, it just takes off. Asking people to upload posts onto the Facebook wall, and I was doing a presentation in Darwin the other week and actually offended most of the room because they're like, did it not make it to Darwin? But it's sort of, it's like, no, we need to change that slide. But this thing goes crazy, and we may have also flown that from a helicopter. Coles, thank you for changing the world, in brackets if you say yes, because we hadn't met them yet. And we flew it over Melbourne and around their head office for half an hour. To be fair, Woolies got one up here too. And my favourite part of this day was Peter and Jeff, the pilots, because they flew for free. And that speaks to not just partnership, but I think humanity. And all of us coming around ideas bigger than just ourselves. And we walk in and present. It's another story. Long story short, 5 hours after the pitch at Coles, 3 hours after Woolworths. We have national ranging in 3 categories outside of all range review periods. And that's a product first here in Australia, but it shows us the power of a consumer-led brand. Now, it could be Facebook hype. That's what some good people said in an article in BRW, and it could have been that, but for us, it was more than that. So at year 3, we'd raised 50 grand profit. At year 5, 500 grand profit. That's when we launched this. And today, 2.5 years on, over $4.69 million profit's been raised. And we think it's, thank you. It's an exciting trajectory, but it's interesting because the whole model, like this whole model, it was flawed from the start. And we knew that. And that the flaw is this. And it depends sort of your kind of view of the world, but the flaw is, it's a great concept, give all the profit. Our business is owned 100% by our charitable trust. No shareholders, no investors, that's beautiful. Make a consumer promise. The challenge, scaling this. Put a business cap on, how do you take it global? How do you take it into new markets, new categories? Where do you get the capital? And we knew it was a problem, and 3 months ago we launched a little video on YouTube to help solve it. Maybe it's a naive approach. I'm going to play this clip for you. We somehow got it done in one take, and this video ends up getting about 600,000 views. Check this out, and we'll talk about the results in a minute.
Hey, thanks for coming. Look, I know we don't have long, so let's get straight into it. Australia, last time you checked in, we asked you to upload a post onto the Coles and Woolies Facebook page to say that if they stocked the Thankyou products, that you'd buy it. Now, this campaign went viral. Thousands uploaded posts. Some even recorded videos of them singing and dancing and rapping. And then 2 legendary helicopter pilots, Peter and Jeff, flew their helicopters above the Coles and Woolies head office. Then, in industry record time, they both said yes. And when that happened, 14 products hit the shelf. But today, there's over 38 products on the market, some outselling every global competitor. But the best bit is this. Because you back this, $3.7 million has been raised, changing the lives of literally hundreds of thousands of people with access to water, food, to hygiene and sanitation. But this is just the beginning. Because in our world, there are still 1 billion people living in extreme poverty, but the global goal is 0 by 2030. So it's time for Thankyou to go to the next level. But herein lies our greatest challenge. You see, while our competitors have access to million and billion dollar investors, at Thankyou we have no investors and we will never change our 100% model. So to scale this idea is hard, but we had an idea and we need you. Our team have been so humbled and moved as we've shared our story in front of hundreds of thousands of students, schools, universities, even in corporate workplaces, and see people get something from the Thankyou journey for themselves. So I spent the last 1.5 years writing this book. And this book is titled Chapter 1. It's the first chapter of the Thankyou journey, and on its pages is everything and anything we've learned about making your ideas and dreams a reality. And we've written it for you on your journey, whatever your journey looks like. Now, this is no ordinary book. 100% of the profit from Chapter 1 will fund Chapter 2, the future of Thankyou. What is the future? Well, I'm glad you asked. Mums and dads of Australia, get ready for a game-changing baby range. And it begins with this dermatologically tested baby body care range. But we took it a step further because we discovered there's 46 points of improvement on a nappy. And we worked with some of the best in the market to bring you a nappy range that you are gonna love. Now, it's a design-led disposable nappy and reusable nappy. It's been tested by Aussie families and global innovators in nappy development, and tested with our co-founder Justine and our little guy Jed.
We don't think it's right that in developing countries, one mum dies every 90 seconds due to pregnancy and childbirth, and 2.9 million babies don't make it within their first month of life. But together, we can change that.
Now, we've worked out that if this range goes okay, then in the next 3 years, we'll raise around $3 million profit. But Australia, if you back this, then together in 3 years, we could raise over $20 million, which will go to impacting the lives of literally millions of families around the world. But this is just from the profits here in Australia. See, the one question I get asked more than any other question is this: could Thankyou work in another country? Well, it's time to test that out. Thankyou's worked in Australia, but now we're throwing it to our Kiwi mates to see if Thankyou can work in another country. And we love this thought that two of the smallest countries who both bat above our weight in sport and entertainment and music, that we could together go and prove this concept, and maybe one day we take it global. So we're starting to set up a local team and local product. And when you buy Chapter 1, you're helping fund the launch. Now, once we've launched in New Zealand and baby's launched, then together we're gonna fund the launch of this. Well, actually at Thankyou, we get a bit excited about the future. But the elephant in the room is this: most brands have got millions of dollars, literally millions, to launch a whole new country. And we come up against one competitor that spends $10 million on marketing every year. In fact, industry experts say that from the moment this clip launches, they'll start a team with one goal: to disrupt our launch. The industry have said they'll try things like pantry filling, where they offer huge discounts on their product. We all fill our pantry so that when the Thankyou nappy launches, we don't need to buy it. Then it misses the sales rates in the supermarkets and it gets deleted. Why would they do this? Because together we are challenging their billion-dollar empire. But we think with your help and about $1.2 million, we can pull off not just baby, but the launch of New Zealand. Now that's still a lot of dollars. And it's a heck of a lot of books. In fact, the best-selling book in Australia sells around 5,000 copies and would be lucky to make about 50 grand. So we're launching this book with a pay-what-you-want price. No RRP. You can pay $25. You can pay $25,000. The question isn't how much do you want to pay for Chapter 1. It's how much do you want to invest into the future of an idea that we think could change the world we live in forever. Now you can buy it on our website, thankyou.co, and then in a bookshop first in every airport in Australia and New Zealand, at Watermark, Relay and Newslink. It's crazy, but you might be wondering, how many books do you have to sell to raise $1.2 million? It's a tough question because it's pay what you want, but we left it with our head of numbers and co-founder Jared to figure it out.
Mate, I don't know if we need 80 books, 800 books, or 8,000 books, but I ordered 80,000 just in case.
That is a lot of books. So here's how it's gonna work. If you back this, I'll pack this. I'll be on this production line 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. You can come and volunteer to join us, or even tune in on the live feed to ask questions about how the campaign works. Now this warehouse, it's no ordinary warehouse. Essendon Fields Airport has let us this space, and they used to build airplanes in here. But in 28 days' time, they need it back because this turns into a construction site. So we've got 28 days to get this done or find another impossibly large warehouse. Now there's one question that I think you might be thinking. What if this book that has no RRP, that aims to raise $1.2 million in 28 days to launch an epic baby range in a whole nother country. What if this dream doesn't work? But can I ask you another question? What if it does? Because the answer to that question is that together we go from helping hundreds of thousands of people to soon millions of people's lives. We invite you to buy the book, Fund the Future. Thanks for stopping by.
When we turned up to the warehouse and the sound guy was like, there's 13 babies here. We're like, yeah, it's a baby thing. He's like, that's really bad for sound. And we were so nervous, this idea of one take thing and the camera guy. I'm like, have you done stuff like this before? He goes, oh, no, but he'd done Mad Max Fury Road. And I'm not sure if he thought that was a good thing to tell me, but I was like, there's so much pressure. What if we fail with the clip? That wasn't just the thing. What if we fail with this whole idea? Packing books in a warehouse, pay what you want, 1.2 million in a market, 50 grand. The whole thing's kind of crazy. But the big idea isn't about money here, and we need money, but it's about buy-in. And we love this thought that we could turn us as readers into kind of mini social investors, investing in an idea that one day could change the world. Now, I realize there's a few naive elements to this campaign, but let me just give you the numbers quickly. We launch it. And in the first 28 days, we didn't hit the 1.2 million. And by the way, packing books isn't that fun, just to put it out there. It wasn't that fun. But in the first hour, chapter 1 hit the bestseller status. By day 28, we raised $1.44 million profit, selling over 50,000 copies. And to those of you in the room, if you've bought a copy, we thank you so much. And it's been amazing to see people paying what they want. We had a school a couple of weeks back pay $1,400 for a copy, which is amazing. All these kids chipped in. Some people have paid 50 cents, and I'm looking for them. But, we have their addresses. I'm not sure anyway, but it's pay what you want. Now you're thinking, but what happened online? That's safe. What about retail? Well, in week 1, we get an email from the airports, and the jury was out. We'll pay what you want work in a retail environment. The email says, guys, it hasn't gone just well. It's outsold every business book launch and was second to their Harry Potter launch back in the day. I'm like, I haven't even read that, but that is awesome. Absolutely mind-blowing. Now, we've got the money. I mean, it's just hit over $2.2 million. This thing keeps selling every single day. Businesses, groups, schools buying it. It's phenomenal. But the back message to this book has this little message that says, you have the power to change stuff. My mum's a primary school teacher. She was like, no, that is not a good descriptive word. But I'm like, Mum, you're in the book, so just be happy with that bit. And she's happy with the word now. And the reason it says stuff is because your stuff and my stuff looks completely different. We actually have the power to change the world around us, to change our team, our life, our relationships. We each hold that power, and only we hold the power to change stuff. And you can replace that with whatever word you want to insert there. But changing stuff is interesting. See, at the beginning I said, get out and stay out. You may have seen this on Facebook, but I once saw a circle and it said, this represents your comfort zone. But out here's where the magic happens. And many of us in this room, we've got out once, twice, maybe many times. But the greatest challenge is having the courage to stay out. At Thankyou, we're 1 chapter in. We've got more chapters to come, and my question in the room is, what's your next chapter individually, even as a team, as a brand? Our next chapter is still uncomfortable. It's in this category, and we're 1 week in. Launches in Coles, and it's interesting because the largest nappy company in the world has failed 7 launches here in Australia. And there's some good reasons for it. It's a tough category. We were on Channel 7 News the other night. It's the first time one of our products has gone on the news without us knowing about it or pitching our hearts out to get it there. And it was on there talking about nappy wars and stuff. And we're like, oh, this sounds scary. But those who know a little bit about the category know how scary it is. One CEO said, have you got your supply chain sorted? Because when he launched nappies in Europe, they just bought up all the raw materials and sent them bankrupt. And I was like, that does sound full on. We move into this category not just for fun, we know why we're doing it. We're driven by a cause to help end the mums and kids that are dying unnecessarily in childbirth. And I think for us, our approach is around challenging your thinking, challenging our thinking. If we zoom into this book, there's a few elements to it that scared us. I mean, on the front of this cover, the most subtle part of it is the brand. You probably can't see it. It's there in grey. We talk about how to be remarkable, and what I'm talking about is how to have people remark about you. And the truth is, looking at that, the only way this works is if someone remarks about it to someone else. No bottles, no products on there, no big logos. But when you open this book, the other thing that scared us was this. You get it delivered and you think, hang on, have I got a misprint? It's not a misprint. We did our research, turned out globally there's no book sold in this format that's hit bestseller or any other status. So that was research one. And then just to let you guys know, books are written left to right usually. And so it's almost childish, I mean nearly offensive. Are you guys just annoying on purpose? It's interesting. See, we designed it for two reasons. They've both worked. The first was if you read this book in public, all of a sudden it goes from invisible in a market of millions of books to now visible. And it cuts through. People have had to explain it to people on the plane, on the train, in public. What are you doing? And they're explaining to them about the book and the purpose. That's point one. Point two was, this book makes you feel uncomfortable. And there's a chance you'll never read our story because of the discomfort. But therein lies the greatest lesson we've ever learnt. To make ideas and dreams a reality, you've got to be willing to get uncomfortable. When you stay in that space, something remarkable happens, because about page 4 or 5, you go, this is not that weird, because every email you guys read is usually in that format. Business reports are in that format. And unless you're an avid reader, you're more used to this than you are to that. People have the speed reading community are like, did you design it for us? It's faster. And I'm like, no, but awesome. Challenge your thinking. What stops us, though, getting out and staying out is one thing, and I'll end on this, and I think it's pretty simple, but it's fear. Because it takes courage to stay out of a comfort zone. You think about it in your professional walk, to have an idea that others may not believe in, to step out and to stay out, to risk the brand, the momentum, the experience. And I think for me, fear is personal. I mean, it's throughout our whole journey, but for me in year 10, I said I'll never do public speaking because I had a really strong lisp. And I'm annoyed with the person who came up with the term lisp to describe a lisp. It's ridiculous, but that's the thing, like fear is interesting. I wrote about the lisp in the book, I'm talking to you about it now, but now I'm also thinking, are they listening for it? I shared this bit of this story yesterday at the Australian Retail Association. So Coles, Woolies, everyone's in the room, and I'm thinking, this story's a little confronting for retailers. Every time I get up, there's a new reason to have fear, even in this room, but you've got to push past it if you want to do anything remarkable. As a kid, I sat in a room and a speaker once said, no two people in the world or in history of mankind have ever had the same fingerprint. I'm like, that's cool. But then he said, it's because each of us have an opportunity to leave an imprint in this world that no one else can. What's your individual imprint? What's your brand's imprint? And I think we all have that opportunity. So thank you.